second.
Can you open the top picture of its atomic bonding?
Okay, that one there.
Yeah. Okay, if you look at this, it gives you a very direct effect why it causes cancer. Can you go on the? Can you bring the? What do you call it? Amino acid chain of the DNA. You see, the DNA of the body of the man has a skeleton of what they call the spinal back of it, which contains, you see what it contains, and then you understand why it's so dangerous. Can you bring, what do you call it?
You want the same structure, but for DNA? Is that what you mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, just a second.
I'll put them next to each other. You have a facility to screen share or split your screen.
Okay, share differently here. I think that'll work. Okay, so we have the DNA here. They don't have the actual...
Yeah, they do. Open up the first picture. The first
big
picture. Just click on that first picture there. Here you go.
Just open it up.
Yellow is phosphorus.
Just open it up. Open the two and put them next to each other. Open it up.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And it's a spine. It's a back of spine bone of the shape of DNA is because of this element. Okay, open it up. Let's see what it is. That's your... Okay, go bring the other picture, not this one with the N and H. And open up the DNA next to it. No, can you go to the, not this color picture of this material? Yeah, that's it. Now open the DNA next to it until you get the same parameters on your DNA, the elements.
Yeah, it doesn't have that same structure in the
Wikipedia.
In the Wikipedia.
Okay, what is if you look at on this element, which you just say has created so much, just shrink that number and it tells you what is what. On the left, on the amino acid, just if you shrink, on the top it tells you hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon, and
phosphorus.
What do you have? What do you have on this element?
Phosphorus.
You understand? The reason this whatever it is dangerous, because it carries amino acid backbone, which is phosphorus.
It's got everything the same. It's got the hydrogen, the oxygen, the nitrogen.
But we have that.
Rick, I got the a link there for you for the DNA structure.
You see, the spiral shape of the DNA is because of the spacing of the phosphor. So in this structure, with having, can you open it on the other side? Yeah, open it up. Open it up. Let's see. You see why this is so lethal. Because it interacts in balance with the spinal, what do you call it, the backbone of the DNA. The helix shape of DNA, I've written a paper somewhere, I've explained it somewhere, is due to phosphor. So you have the phosphor which already touches the helix, so the helix changes its position, it is not the same shape because of the interaction of the fields. So in that position, everything moves. So that's why it's so dangerous. But what do they produce this material? What's the reason of production of this material? And there is a way you can change it. If it is in the waters, you can change it very simple. you can transfer, you can change the bond in a very simple way, because it's connected to nitrogen. If you look at it, the spinal space of the amino acid is a protein carrier. So you have a protein in there. Nitrogen of the protein, the hydrogen of the protein, the oxygen is there. What is left is a carbon. And if you look at the, what you call the shape of the structure, it's very easy. You see the interaction of the fields themselves create the carbon. So this is a copy of the amino acid by field interaction. That's why it's so lethal. It interacts because it mimics amino acid, it mimics DNA. So DNA takes as part of it. So it opens it up, the shape of the helix changes, and that's why it's so dangerous. It's very easy. You, as knowledge seekers, you should be able to read this very, very easy. You have, look what you have. You have 5 oxygens. Yeah? You have 4 hydrogens. You have 1 nitrogen. So all you need is the conversion field forces of 1 oxygen or conversion field forces of 2 oxygen to create a field force of a carbon. Then you have a full amino acid, which is the backbone of the DNA, and then you have the spinal cord balance of the DNA helix condition, which gives you the phosphorus. That's it. Voila. You see it, why it's so dangerous. And there is a way you can change this in your systems. If you add CO2 gas to this, will destroy it. All you need to do with this is to create a CO2, add a water, if the GANS water of the CO2, most probably CO2 itself as a GANS, 1 drop, will disbalance this, will break up the chain. Then you're left with the phosphor, and that phosphor you need, and it'll become a positive use in the structure of the body of the man, because the phosphor will change to the sulfur, become part of your immune system, and the phosphor becomes the backbone of the structure of the physical existence. You strengthen the what you call the amino acid chain. Just any of you who do these kind of tests, you can do it. Just add 1 drop of CO2 into this combination, you disbalance it. Because one of these water or oxygens loses, what's going to happen? Let's look at it when you do it. You have a H2O. You have a H2O. So now you have 2 drops of water. What are you left with? With 1 hydrogen and 2 oxygens. When you bring the 2 oxygen with the hydrogen, it has to split. Because if you go back in the world of understanding, in the world of creation, hydrogen and nitrogen gains or loses to become a carbon or oxygen to create the condition of life, amino acid. So when you introduce a CO2, you add to condition that the 4 oxygens become balanced. Then you bring the carbon, the hydrogen is released on its own, nitrogen is freed, and you bring in the total balance of the liquid, what you call amino acid. You have a P with it, now the structure is broken. It strengthens the, what you call, the amino acid, the structure of the DNA. Actually, if you understand this, you can use this as a benefit to human race than a danger to human race. If you can add a CO2 and check it and see what it comes to, then we need phosphor. We need huge amount of phosphor, because the phosphor and sulfur are part of the, when you do the blood test, you see what it comes. They look at your sulfur. Sulfur is a detergent, and phosphor is a building block. If you look at your blood test, you look at the chlorine, the chlor, you look at the phosphor, you look at the sulfur. These are disinfectant of the higher order materials in the blood of the man and in physicality. So if you add a CO2 to this, you change this to the benefit of mankind. But you have to understand why, and it's there. Now it mimics the what you call DNA, and that's why when it mimics, it puts pressure on, and then because it's missing a carbon in the amino acid chain, it moves the phosphor in a spinal cord of what are called the backbone helix structure of the DNA, and it creates havoc. It doesn't become cancer. You create a new element. But if you add, any of you are in this process, add to a CO2 to it, and you see the effect. And it can be used as a huge benefit to humanity. If you can release the phosphor, which is one of the most needed elements in the body of the man. There is nothing more needed in the body than phosphor. When you eat food and you eat the wrong food, forever your body is converting the elements into phosphor to guarantee the existence and continuity of the DNA. Every cell, every DNA cell needs that energy of the phosphor. And most of the work of the body of the man to keep the physicality of the man in his DNA is converting elements continuously to phosphor. Because every cell, every DNA, when you see a phosphor in the, what you call DNA, phosphor has a cycle of life. 1 year, 6 months, 2 months, it has to be replaced. Where does it come from? Unless the body converts it, most of the conversion comes in thyroid glands. And it comes in thymus, because it uses a lot of energy of the B12 to convert, to keep phosphor always available for every single cell which is produced, carries the DNA, has the whole, is what we call the spinal backcord helix, that those phosphor in that, the guy puts just a P, you read it, that phosphor has a lifetime, has to be changed. It loses its power. So it needs to be continuously replaced. So when you have this phosphor, the time when it comes to be replaced, this takes its place. And then it creates cancer, what you call a cancer. But it actually is what we put in there ourselves, and one of the things needed. If you break it up, now you have a bigger source for a healthy life. You can change this poison to one of the biggest benefits to mankind.